Hello and welcome to Heritage University Presents Managing Burnout. If this is your first time joining us, I am so glad you're here. My name is Melissa Rogers, and I'm the Vice President of Business Development for Heritage Property Management Services. And I have the wonderful pleasure of bringing a course to you tonight as also co-taught by our Vice President of Professional Development and Developer Services, Miss Becky Swain. And so tonight we're going to talk about what is board member burnout, what is just burnout in general, and can volunteerism actually help boost that, and what could that look like maybe to boost your volunteerism efforts within your community? So as we go through tonight's presentation, we do want to encourage you. We're not going to be talking specifically about any community specifics. So if you do have any questions related specifically to your association, we encourage you reach out to your community manager if you're professionally managed, or if you reach out to your association's attorney, just to make sure that you are getting the correct advisement for your particular circumstance. So should you have any questions as we kind of go along tonight's presentation, there is a Q&A box in the upper right-hand corner, and we would love for you to drop your questions in there as we're kind of talking throughout the presentation. Becky and I are going to do the Q&A towards the end, and we will take as much time as we possibly can while we've got your attention this evening to go ahead and get some of you jazzed up and invigorated for how we can help you in your volunteer efforts. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Miss Becky Swain. This is her first time joining us on a Heritage University experience. So welcome, Becky. We're so grateful to have you join us tonight. And if you wouldn't mind, could you just kind of, before we get into our presentation, could you just let the audience know a little bit about who you are and what value you bring to our organization?
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's a great topic, important topic. I am, like Melissa said, the VP of Professional Development and Developer Services. I am tasked with helping to support the education for our managers and keeping them as top-notch as we can, and focusing on this topic with our managers, doing everything we can to help prevent burnout in managers. So it's a topic we take very serious, and look forward to it. Thanks for having me, Melissa.
Absolutely. I'm excited too. So right now, we're going to go ahead and get started with our slides. And this time, friends, I'm not going to let this beat me. Welcome, Becky. This is how we can have fun sometimes. Okay. Bear with me, friends. I'm trying to click the slides. And thankfully, everybody is being super, super patient as I am. Yay, there we went. It just takes a little bit of time and patience and a little bit of tenacity right there. All right, so tonight we are going to be talking about these 5 main points of consideration. And one of the things before we kind of delve into, our topics for this evening, one of the things that I really want to point out about Becky that she didn't do a very good job of promoting for herself was that our organization is really, really, we're kind of cool in the fact that we get to have a vice president where their direct focus is completely tailored towards making sure that all of the employees, not just property management, are engaged and have access to education and know what opportunities are out there and get that encouragement in that environment. And so when Becky and I were talking about this, we actually took a class together through CAI, which if you are new to Heritage University or to being a board member, or a homeowner, that is. CAI is Community Associations Institute, and they are our national trade affiliate. And a lot of us, Becky definitely included, have our trade professional designations from that. And so she and I were taking about a 6-hour CE credit course together. And the first 3 hours we're talking about managing burnout. And boy, we both sitting next to each other, feverishly writing down notes. And really, that is exactly what this class is that we're bringing to you today. We've made some adaptations for ourselves and for our organization and our partners specifically. But in general, this is a labor of love for Becky and I. And who better to teach you all about some of the things that I think everybody's struggling with than the person that does this for our organization. So I'm super excited that you're here. And as I said, friends, we are going to learn some 5 main, really, really important things. First and foremost, in my opinion, we have to validate this burnout. We need to say it out loud. We need to claim it. And then we need to figure out how we can move forward from it, because whether it is now or you previously were, it's real. I think we've all kind of experienced it at some point, maybe within the last 3 years or at some point in your life in general. Next, we're going to talk about the 3 strategies for increasing volunteerism and whether or not there's going to be a direct tie between actually volunteering and whether that causes burnout. And then sharing the workload as stewards of your organization, which is a domestic not-for-profit registered with the Georgia Secretary of State. You do get the ability to have committees and so forth. And we're going to talk about different ways and people that you can, resources that you can leverage. Again, those partnerships, we're going to give you some pretty detailed examples, not because you might not already be utilizing them, but because maybe you didn't even think about those being viable options. So we're here to hopefully provide some solutions for you, in addition to some really great entertainment, of course. And then number 5, which is so crucial, which in my opinion, Becky, should really be number 1.
Yes.
But celebration is necessary, and we are going to focus a lot about positive reinforcement and prioritizing gratefulness, thankfulness, meaningful praises, and those types of things. So when I was putting this slide together, or I had so much fun finding this picture, friends. If none of you are laughing, you're not burnt out. If all of you are laughing, welcome. You felt this at some point in your life. Okay, so we talked about this. Becky, in our promo, which our team put together so wonderfully, advertising this class to everybody, burnout isn't imaginary or sudden. It's very real. It's an emotional, physical, or mental response to stress that has built up over time. And burnout can feel like frustration, tension, or even exhaustion. And I found it really interesting as I was researching, some of the things, even as Becky was researching some of the items for this, we came across some really interesting pieces. The Google, the internet has a lot out there. And while it's equally encouraging, I was a little concerned, actually. Okay, so I found this slide incredibly interesting. Becky, what are your thoughts on some of the multiple definitions that we're seeing here about burnout?
There's quite a few, and you could even probably add so much more. The
Right?
decrease of satisfaction or decrease of sense of accomplishment. You could just really go on and add far more to this. But yeah, I'm liking the rocket fuel.
Right, right. And I think I've had that position where I'm sitting at my desk going, okay, I got this. I got this. Thank goodness I love my job. Oh my gosh. That's just all I have to say. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So obviously in doing some of the research for this, we did come across, we didn't want to just talk about validating it. We wanted to give you some solutions and some encouragement for it, because again, as we alluded to earlier, speaking for myself, I wasn't immediately burnt out in 2020, but there was a brief period of time where I didn't even realize that I was looking back at some of the steps to identify it. And so, I think it's easy to say, oh, I just had a bad day, or you know what? And I love that mindset. I'm typically the more positive, I'm an eternal optimist, if you will. But one of the things that I really connected with on here is identify your stressors. And I know, speaking for me from personal experience, I could only do that when I was in therapy. And I just needed somebody else to talk to other than the air, you know? I mean,
Mhm.
I love what my empty room has to say back to me, but truly, getting guidance and assistance, whatever that might look like for you. But being able to identify what is stressing you is truly the best way to be able to identify and then overcome or, persevere through, essentially, depending on what the circumstances are. Do you have any good habits or things that you do on a regular basis that kind of help thwart off burnout?
Oh,
Mine's
absolutely.
yoga.
Yoga. Yeah, I
Yeah.
wish I could do yoga. Um, I need to learn to do yoga. No, and taking that break, taking that time.
Mhm.
It's so
Yeah.
easy, especially nowadays. We are at our locations for so long, sitting at your desk, stepping away. It's easy for us to start early and just keep going, lose track of time. Setting a timer. I set a timer to get
Right.
up and take a walk. If it's just walking up to the driveway, walking to the break room, just stepping away and regrouping. Just giving yourself that time to come back to you and let everything else set for a minute.
I love that.
Yeah.
Um, One of the I think I saw, probably one of the memes or something, but it was actually a nice thing. And it talked about putting something in your calendar that says remember to eat. A 10-minute little reminder. And I know that sounds so silly, but just as it talks about on here, get enough exercise. It doesn't just say exercise, it says get enough exercise.
Mhm.
It's also really important that you eat consistently. In this new adaptive, fluid world of there's still a lot of us that are in a flex environment that actually having the work from home benefit and reporting to the office serves to maximize productivity and the customer service experience. And so we kind of like having that balance. And sometimes when you're work from home completely, it's really hard to keep that work life balance because sometimes it just bleeds in together without you even realizing, and it creeps in. And then, as it says at the very bottom, you didn't even realize that you have to set boundaries because you thought you had been in control of the situation to begin with. So this is life. This is how we adapt. And we thought that this was going to be something that, or is something that is going to be continuously talked about. Maybe not the burnt out part, but the part about making sure that you can identify where you are and your circumstances, so that when you are going into the boardroom per se, or when you are, going into that annual meeting and you're a candidate and you want to step up in front of the association and tell them why it is, we want to make sure that you're on your A game. We want to make sure that you're representing the best version of yourself. And we kind of talked about this earlier. Can it really? I think possibly it could. I think if you're that board member, Becky, that's what we call the lifer, that I've been on my board for 35 years. There's some people that really love that, and I think that they are great stewards for their association, and I applaud their efforts. And then there are some that are like, oh my gosh, we don't have quorum. I've been trying to get off the board for years and I just can't. And that's burnout. There's a difference there, okay? A really, really big difference. And I guarantee you, the difference between those two was one board member was doing the whole job by themselves, and the other board member had support and was leveraging other relationships within the organization. So, a little bit of a whoops, I slipped up and I said that a little bit early. Becky, have you ever served on a board of directors before?
I have. I have years ago before I
okay, I
got
was going to
into
say,
the industry, and have said since, no, I let my husband take care of that side of it now.
you know what, there's nothing wrong with that. It's very interesting. I've shared this story before. I had a very, very different opinion of associations raising assessments to incorporate lifeguards without my approval as a homeowner, because I was uneducated on how I was appropriately supposed to, give my feedback. And so coming into this profession, I think that that's interesting. I too have served on a board of directors. I too have chose to have that as a one-time experience. Once as an, especially we do this for a living, right?
Yes.
We kind of do this every day. So I feel like, I've invested into my neighborhood. You've invested into your neighborhood. Does your board ever reach out to you knowing that you work for a management company and like an agent, like just a quick check capacity? Do you do any advisory for them?
To this point, I have not. My husband's
Okay.
on the board, so
Oh, that's right.
I
You
do
just said
get
that.
questions through that way. But yeah,
that's good. No, that's awesome. Because for those of you that, are board members or were previous board members, a lot of times you don't have to serve to be able to add value to the community. If you've previously served and you make yourself available, Becky, I'll talk about that here in a little bit. So these are our thoughts. When we put all of our notes together, this is really what we thought. Okay, when you break it down to its basic strategy, if we want to prevent burnout, we really need to increase volunteerism. Okay. And how do we increase volunteerism? And if you have good volunteerism already, this is going to be like a high five course for you. And this should be a takeaway for you to go have a celebration party after watching this, because a lot of people struggle. A lot of boards struggle. Thankfully, post-COVID has allowed for us to be able to maximize the internet a little bit more and do the virtual meetings. And so quorum has been achieved for a lot of associations within the last 3 years, where they haven't been able to establish quorum in the last 30 years. So there are some great triumphs that have come from some of the very unfortunate circumstances surrounding that. And so here, the 3 main things that we're going to talk about over the next couple of minutes are going to be communication. It's not about just sending out an e-blast. What do you do as a board to actively communicate to your organization that there are opportunities or the activities that you're doing? Do you solely rely on your board meeting minutes for your homeowners to just really read in between the lines? Because if you're taking really good board meeting minutes, they're just going to have actions and decisions. They're not going to have lots of detailed notes in them that would allow the homeowners to see that, unless that's how your organization chooses to do that. Most don't. So make sure that your communication is where it should be. Becky, what are your thoughts on education?
To me, that is the most important thing that you can do for your homeowners. That will take so much off of a board's plate. The more you can educate your homeowners, those questions that are burning that sometimes they don't know how to ask, bringing it in, utilizing the tools that you have, your like Melissa has, your legal counsel, your vendors, bringing in, if you have a pond, a rather large pond, bring somebody in who can help educate your homeowners on a pond. The more you have them educated, the more they're going to care and understand the decisions that the board makes on their behalf.
And not only that,
Yeah.
Becky, but people will also have a healthy understanding of what the expectations are within the
Yes.
community. I mean, and I think that that's super important. So that's actually even better leverage for the board, because if you do have to go to suit for somebody within the organization, you have great support to the judge, that you've, given ample opportunity for that communication and education. I think the thing that I see the most in my position is don't compare. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times I get, in my position within the organization, I help usher in new business to Heritage. And so oftentimes I talk to boards at all different stages within their management search or possible desire. And they oftentimes want to compare themselves to neighboring associations, which, listen, if you like their landscaping and you want to get the number for their landscaper, that's one thing to compare that way. But if you're comparing more than that, when you're taking a look at other associations, it's really interesting, because you don't know if they're professionally managed. You don't know if they are professionally managed, what type of contract scope that they might have partnership with. You don't know what kind of volunteerism efforts that they have within the association. So try to do what's best for your association. I know it's not always easy, but try not to compare or get caught in that comparison trap. And even though I love using Google, don't do it. Don't become that 5-minute expert. Don't be that board member. Don't be that board member that goes online and goes ahead and it looks up stormwater management, and you pull up the blue book and then you read, a snippet, and now you're an expert. There's value in that in the appropriate time, but make sure you use it, to its fullest extent, and for good value. And then last is congratulation. Becky, I think we're probably gonna these three topics are probably going to be the most repetitive topics I think that we're going to talk about over the next couple of minutes, simply because now we just have slides that are individual of each one of these topics. So, okay, as we talk about communication, and I want to make sure that I still have control of my mouse. There we go. Woo. Hey, friends. Sorry about that. There we go. Communication. All right. Becky, this was her addition, was create and adhere to clear and precise agendas. Now, I put in timed in parentheses because I'm a proponent of timed agendas. However, maybe your association does not require that, or this particular meeting does not require that. Regardless, make sure that it's easy and you stick to the appropriate process. And I put the RROO, that's Robert's Rules of Order. That's the parliamentary procedure in which you are to make decisions and govern your organization. Record concise minutes. Did I not just talk about that a second ago, Becky? And I gave the example as to why. Now, there are some associations that love filming and recording their meetings and then putting it on their website for everybody to see. We caution that, possibly. We love the openness and the transparency. You might want to get with your attorney on that, simply because there are certain things that should be maintained in executive, and I'm not at all suggesting that they're not, but just make sure. And when you have a recorded meeting, and then you also have recorded meeting minutes, if you go to court, the judge is going to ask which one is the legal record of the actual meeting. Well, now you have two resources. So they might both get thrown out, if you get my drift. See, Becky, I told you, sometimes I can get doom and gloom, and I don't mean to. I say all these things because sadly we've had, some of our managers experience some of these. All right, Becky, if you want to go ahead and read the last two, that way people can get jazzed up again.
Maintaining a consistent tone when communicating to the neighborhood. And that is really important. We talk about how positivity is contagious, so is negativity, so is anxious. So definitely when you are, presenting to your community, keep upbeat. That's going to be contagious. It's going to keep them happy, not doom and gloom like Melissa. So, keep it light, keep it professional, definitely keep it professional. Oh, my favorite, stay off social media. And yes, we really do mean it. I could probably do an entire hour on that, but I don't want to bore everybody with that. That is probably one of the biggest ways to stress out a board is what is being posted on social media. You have no control over it. If the board chooses to do a Facebook page, do it as an organization where you have control, where comments can't be added to it. It's just a place to dispense information, which is not bad because we want to communicate. We definitely want to communicate. Homeowners, they may create their own. Just stay away from it. It's just going to make you anxious. You can't control what people say, what people do. Oh, can you tell? Not a big fan.
It's very true. And, It's unfortunate because we're starting to see some potential case law and rulings come out that, are not always favorable the way that we want them to be. So yeah, we're really big proponents for you. And hey, listen, if you have a neighbor that organizes the community Facebook page and they run it and it's run by a non-board member, a non-committee member, like Becky said, you can't prevent that. You can't control that. But what you can do, like I tell my daughter, what you can do is you can control how you choose to react.
Yes.
So, and that's really what it is, some boards are so great and they have a wonderful unified, voice that they provide to the association. And let's face it, not all are that way. And so even the best intentions can sometimes get squirreled. And so this is really the reason why we kind of continuously harp on that. It's really for your own good, especially with our advances that we're potentially going to see in technology upcoming. So, all right, education. I've already talked about this. If you are not new to Heritage University, Heritage loves to make sure that you all have access to education, whether you are a homeowner, a committee member, a board member, somebody's brother's uncle, we don't mind. You don't even have to be a Heritage partner to take advantage of some of these classes because that's how dedicated we are to making sure that you are empowered to do your position. And we would be remiss, in my opinion, if we didn't present to you some really great opportunities to bolster that volunteerism, to make sure that you can spot signs of burnout within yourself or maybe within other people so that you can be mindful and set healthy boundaries for yourself and make yourself available for other people that might actually be in need. So that's my 2 cents on education. Becky, if you want to go ahead and take over this slide, I'd love to hear your thoughts on education.
These are really great points. Understanding the expectations of the roles between owners, committees, and officers, that right there can help keep you from getting underwater, taking on more committees. We talk about volunteers trying to get them, but spread the love, get help, create different committees, ad hoc committees, different things to be able to help spread it and teach them about it. What are these doing? Having the homeowners orientations, really educating your homeowners to what it is that an association does, what it is the board's doing, what it is your committees are doing, and in a positive way, get them excited, get them interested. The more that you can have more hands helping, the better off, you guys are going to be able to do to keep it down, the stress level down, to help ward off the burnout. You're sharing it. Creating a community plan. This is something we see a lot. You have a new board that comes in and you want to fix everything. You want to address every homeowner's concern. Create a plan, but chew off small parts. Create your 10 things you guys want to accomplish, but start with the first 2. Knock those puppies out. You're good. Go to the next 2. If you try to do it all at one time and wrap your arms around all of it at one time and try to fix it all, that is going to definitely burn you out very, very quickly. Things don't happen overnight. You can't fix them overnight. So take off some small bites with that. Definitely establish some educational opportunities. We kind of talked about this a little bit with the vendor and understanding what's going on. A lot of people who are first-time buyers, they don't understand what it is to live in a coveted restricted community. I would love that all realtors tell them all the things about it, but we live in the real world. So, but make it enjoyable. Handing them rules and saying, you got to follow this is just going to give a pushback, which is going to stress everybody out. Bring it to it and say, hey, did you know this is what our documents are? Did you know this is why we do it? We want to keep our values up. We want to keep it a beautiful community. And educate them with that and help them understand they are your future board members also. So the better you can educate them, the more they're going to be willing to want to be that future and carry the plan for your beautiful neighborhood going forward. Again, education. I love it. It's you need it. You need it.
and not only that, let me go back and just double check on this one that I love what you put. If it goes back, it will maybe. But you said communicate often. So it's not just one time. It's not,
No.
Maybe establish a monthly meet and greet. I know it's not, there we go. It took a moment to think about it, but right here, it says often, communicate often. And again, we talked about that in communication. There's all different ways that you can do that, but really it's super important, that you take advantage as many opportunities that you can. One of the things that I used to always do when I managed associations, and in fact, Becky, I think, oh my gosh, you and I did this at an annual meeting. You and I think one of the very first annual meetings you and I did actually together when you started working for Heritage. And what we did is we put out sign-up sheets for different different committees within the community. So if any of the homeowners were interested in the ARC committee, or if they were interested in hey, what's a committee you want to see? We left it open, and we gathered that and we brought that back to the board. So make sure, we're going to talk about that a little bit more in thinking outside the box, but make sure you capitalize every single opportunity that you absolutely can, and not go through all these slides like I am. But here we are. Congratulations. In my opinion, this is the most important one. Like I've said, how many times have you heard that serving on the board is a thankless job? Why would I want to do that? No, everybody hates you. Oh, that sounds like way too much time. Way too much time. And people are petty. I don't want to have to get involved with my neighbor's dog. And that just seems so ridiculous to me. Why can't people just follow the rules? These are the things that we hear every day. Okay. And while some of those might be true, okay, I think it's in the way that you approach maybe the answer to those circumstances, or maybe it just is that people or the board possibly is not projecting a positive enough image to the community to make them want We talk about apathy a lot, Becky, during annual meeting season, during the election season, right? It's like, hey, if we don't get quorum, at least that means that majority of the association is happy with what we're doing. And so, that's okay. I don't necessarily think that that's the case when we're talking about this, especially nowadays where cost of inflation is very, very high and communities are consistently seeing an increase in their budget, or some, not all, but most, I would say, are seeing a significant increase in their budget year over year just out of the cost of inflation. Sometimes, like all businesses, sometimes we have to shift our focus. And what we've realized as a company, and I'm sure you hear it in the news or in other resources, when there is good employee retention, there's good client retention. And when the employees are happy, the clients are happy, right? You've heard some of those things. That actually holds exactly true with being a board. If you are portraying unification, you are getting things done. You are appropriately being transparent to the organization, and you prioritize congratulation, and you're generous. Maybe it's a handwritten note, Our company loves talking about those and doing those, just because that seems to be something that's just, it feels like a million years ago, Becky, that we wrote letters, you know what I mean? But it really does have so much sentimental, warmth to it because it's personal. It's not a template, hello, insert name. It's not that, it's personal that way. As a board, don't forget to promote your achievements. Again, we're coming into board meeting. Listen to me. We're coming into budget season, believe it or not. Well, at least for the CAMs, we are. It's coming as board members. It's coming into budget season soon. And so that's a perfect time because you're already going to be taking a look at your community plan that Becky talked about. And remember, we did a community plan class, I want to say earlier this year. I think we did it in February, where we talked about a whole hour of nothing but what is a community plan. And I love that you referenced it in this as well, because that really helps. And that helps keep that continuity between new board members and old board members and so forth. There's a lot in there. But when you don't stop and take the opportunity to say thank you, sometimes all of these really awesome things over a period of time can naturally decay, especially if there's not any consistency with being able to say thank you. Would you agree with that, Becky?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, when you make those achievements, announce them, tell the community about them, even the small ones that may seem menial. And, reaching out an extra thank you for the person who went that extra step to help you achieve it.
Right.
Definitely you need to celebrate those.
And I don't know if it's the marketer in me or not, but, it can be something simple like picking up tennis balls because we know that you just got a new puppy or a new toy or something like that. And just saying, hey, I was at Target and I was perusing the dollar bins and getting lost for an hour. And I saw this and I thought of you, and I just wanted you to have that as a thank you note for, you helping me get the tennis court RFP completed, whatever that might be, right?
Yeah.
I think, it doesn't have to be grandiose. It just needs to be genuine, right? All right, Becky, this is your baby. This one, share the workload. We've kind of alluded to this and leveraging it, but I'll let you go ahead and talk about this slide because this also is a lot of what it is that you do especially with our vendor network program.
Yes. Knowing and understanding your governing documents and what kind of committees you can establish and what is entailed with that, what types of charters you need, if you can do ad hoc committees, utilize them. We've talked about it, and sometimes even if ad hoc committees are awesome, because you're breaking it into small chunks for someone to be able to volunteer for a short period of time, get their feet wet. understand really what is involved with volunteering, but they're not getting a obligation for 2 years or 3 years. It's for this one particular time period. So separate them. If you have little projects coming up, share the workload, do some small committees, leverage your neighbors. That is one thing that I have found. Surely you have somebody who is a CPA or works in accounting, or somebody who maybe has a good green thumb. Utilize those, bring those in, and let them contribute to the board, to the volunteer, find their place, utilizing your vendors. I've referenced that. When you have a board meeting, whatever the season is, it's growth season now, invite your landscaper to come talk to your homeowners. Allow them to speak. When you get close to pool season, if you have a pool, have your pool vendor come out and talk. Utilize that those vendors to help educate, help share the workload, bring in volunteers. The more that you can have the help, the better and more successful you guys will be.
And I love that, Becky, because that's definitely something in Heritage University that we consistently maintain. Leverage the knowledge base within your ownership.
Yes.
We talk about you don't have to have specific qualifications to be a board member, but there are people that do have specific expert level capabilities that they could leverage. And I love your point about the ad hoc committees. Start small. Even if you think it's silly and you just want to replace the trash cans around the lake, okay? Listen, if there is somebody who is just fit to be tied about those geese, ask them if they want to join that committee. They can be part of a solution. I know it's replacing the trash cans, but while they're there, they can walk away the geese. See, just leverage certain things. I know that's a silly example, but the truth is, there's a lot of opportunity. We gave you some examples on this slide right here. I think, Becky, you reached out. I think a lot of board members think about their vendors when they have to really sit down, like, oh yeah, these are the people that we work with. And then they forget the second column, all the other people that are there to work alongside them, as an organization. And it's been my experience that those associations that have great partnerships with the local schools and the local first responders, they are able to engage the community. They are able to offer services or have guest speakers. Let me just tell you this, friends, secret. Truly, this is a property management secret. If you have public streets and you're not gated and you're a common law HOA, make best friends with the police department and have them come, or the sheriff's department, and have them come and talk to your homeowners about why they can't regulate the parking on the street. And maybe they can talk about some additional things that can happen, but they are the expert. If that's a contentious topic, take the expert. That's not the property manager that's the expert. We go to the police department and go, hey, listen, what's happening here? So, don't forget, as a board, take a look at joining the local chamber of commerce. Have some swag. I will say this is some fun name dropping. Johns Creek Community Association. Love this organization. If any of you are listening, we really sincerely thank you. This is an organization that is comprised of multiple community associations. They're basically a board of directors for other self-governed associations within the area. Now, some from time to time get professional management. For the most part, they're self-managed. And what they do is they leverage the resources. And because there's several of them that come together, they get vendors to come out and do events. And Heritage has been a very proud sponsor of theirs for several years. So We love engaging in the activity within the community, and it doesn't have to be just strictly to your community. I mean, this is part of the thinking outside the box. You know what I mean? So, and I love my city arborist. When I was managing a community in the city of Milton, that city arborist was my best friend because you couldn't breathe without, near a tree without calling the arborist. And I am grateful because I've learned a lot, Anyway, all right. Let's cut to the meat and potatoes. We've talked about different ways that you can be successful in increasing it. Now let's actually talk about celebrating it. I think it's a ton of fun to have really great opportunities where you can get to know each other and you can share experience. Remember the progressive dinners, Becky, where
Yes.
people used to go to each other's houses and they would, I mean, I'm sure it still happens from time to time around the country, but it used to happen all the time, all the time. Now people do block parties or the little cul-de-sac property, parties. The last neighborhood I lived in, I loved it. My kids were small at the time. It was on a cul-de-sac. It was perfect. And it was like one mom could be out and we were hawking all the other kids that were in the yard. So, we could take time, but I wanted to share with everybody. I'm getting out my 27 fundamentals, and I'm sharing with you all what showing meaningful appreciation actually is within the Heritage Way. So this is Heritage Property Management's fundamental number 21, and recognizing people doing things right is more effective than pointing out when they do things wrong. Regularly extend meaningful acknowledgement and appreciation in all directions throughout your organization. I found this to be so fitting when we were putting this together, and I was like, I would be silly if I did not put this in here. And what a great way to celebrate our fundamental than to have some great capabilities like this. Becky, what's the most fun celebration you've ever had at one of your properties? Can you think of anything? I know I put you on the spot on that one. Sorry.
No, we used to do a celebration where for the volunteers, but we'd also do a chili cookout, cook-off.
Yum.
Sorry,
Yum.
cook-off, chili cook-off. Oh, those were always, I miss the chili cook-offs, but that was always fun because everybody would participate.
Yeah.
Our volunteers got recognized. The kids got to play, and we did it in the fall, so it wasn't quite so hot. That was always one of the funnest that I had.
I love that. And, when putting this together, I noticed that we missed National Volunteer Recognition Day, which is April 20th. So just for next year, I'm giving you a heads up, everybody. Here's one thing that you can do. Heritage internally, we love celebrating National Day ofs. We have an employee within our organization that literally keeps a calendar and just keeps us on our toes with some of them. They're really fun. Nominate a volunteer of the year, committee of the year, etc. Sometimes too, partnering with, management companies, we sometimes do fun appreciation things and have opportunities. And, that's something to always engage. If you've got, especially swim team, I know it's about to be pool season, and maybe for swim team, some pools are already open at this point. I will tell you that the best annual meeting I've ever attended, as far as theme wise, they had an ice sculpture and everything, hors d'oeuvres, cute little drinks. They were non-alcoholic because they didn't serve the alcohol until after the meeting because they were so smart. Don't serve alcohol at your meetings. I'm just saying, you should be in the correct mind to make decisions on behalf of your organization. However, as soon as you adjourn the meeting, party on, Yeah, oh my gosh, and we actually still manage this association to this day. The most gorgeous, most elaborate, fun annual meetings, that would be Peachtree Place Condominium. I love them. They're wonderful. Their homeowners and their board members know when it's serious and know when not to take each other seriously. And this organization does a fantastic job of prioritizing. Like I keep saying, right? They fund their budget. Like I've seen some associations, that social committee, man, they're ready to fight the tennis committee real fast, going, hey, listen, we need $5,000 this year. You don't need to resurface those tennis courts. Again, poor example, but real examples that we hear from time to time. So make sure that you also, it's not enough to just do it. Make sure that when you're communicating your budget out to the association, that they see that you're making that a priority. Now, could it potentially or equally turn off some people? Sure, but you want to know what? You should probably leverage them as board members, because that's how you turn frowns upside down. I wanted to say another association that does show meaningful appreciation so well, Chimney Springs Homeowners Association. Holy smokes. They do like a whole dining experience for all of the committees. It's fabulous. I absolutely love when we see our partners really, really give things. A lot of times, if you're catching the theme, Becky, a lot of times people are persuaded by food.
Oh, yes.
It seems to be a common theme, does it not? So when Becky and I were in this 3-hour course earlier in the year that we were talking about, that we kind of gathered all these notes from, the speaker emphasized the love of chocolate from everyone. You know what? You just should really think about just giving everyone chocolate, and she gave us all of these great reasons why dark chocolate is good for you. We're helping improve your health. So I loved her take on that, but she's not wrong in the fact that some people just love food, and food just naturally in any culture. Food brings people together, and it's an opportunity for you to share stories, and obviously putting yourself out in front of the association, again, often putting yourself out in front of the association, you're literally training them to expect this good behavior. And so you'll start to see naturally that the escalating conversations might start to de-escalate. You might start to see that you get more people that want to propose committees, not necessarily join them, but propose committees. But that's a step in the right direction, right, Becky? Do you have any other recommendations or things off the top of your head that you could say, you know what, this might be something that might work? I mean, I know televisions are a thing too, right? Like in gift cards, don't people sometimes do that? I mean, obviously, if you can, I'm not saying from a vendor, I'm saying from the actual association, you can gift certain things to committee members.
Yes, absolutely. Telling them thank you. I mean, in any way, small or little, find someone who loves to bake, make cupcakes and deliver as a thank you.
I love that.
We talk about being thankless volunteers. Sometimes it also is, as far as your committees. So just making sure to really make them feel appreciated. You're going to keep them. They're going to come back. We had one that found a food trucks that were willing to actually volunteer their time for it. So, sometimes you can find ways, be creative. Like you said, think outside of the box for it. But
I love that. Food trucks are totally a thing right now.
Yeah.
And that's right, especially for they're affordable for the organization. They're sometimes fun because it's an entire experience. It's not just a truck or whatever else. So this is all of our contact information. I think we might have a few questions. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at those really quickly. And again, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a ton of fun. So look, what is the best way to deal with a couple of residents that are notorious complainers no matter what the board does to enhance our community? Becky, if we don't answer that 3 times a day. Okay, let me repeat it for you. What is the best way to deal with a couple of residents that are notorious complainers?
Oh, wow.
Have you asked them to join the board yet?
That's always the first thing. Would you like to be a board member? Would you like to be on a committee?
This is me going, wow, it sounds like you have a lot of passion for this particular topic. Would you be interested in providing some additional support to the board for this? You seem to be the person for the job. That's what I would do. And the other thing is, I'll say those notorious complainers, figure out what they're going to complain about before we go to the meeting. Becky, well, more specifically, but this is talked about a lot, but Becky trains the managers essentially. If as you're prepping for an annual meeting or a board meeting, if there's a coup or there are a couple of disgruntled homeowners, try to gather that information. So if you feel like they're going to bombard or possibly provide some type of interruption potentially, that you come prepared for that. And that you can have that ability. And Becky's not wrong. Ask them to serve on the board. I know that sounds ridiculous. I know you're probably going, really? Those are the last people that we want to be on the board. Actually, no. You want to have people that have a different perspective than you. If we're all in alignment, then some of us aren't needed. Makes sense? Any other thoughts or suggestions on that question? That's a great question.
It is a great question, and it is a very common question because I think every association has that and deals with that. We've asked them, you know what? We'd love to hear what you're saying. Do me a favor, put together a package to present what it is your concern and the solution you have. The board would love to look at it. A lot of times they'll do it. A lot of times they're not going to do it. But you are extending the care and you care what they have to say. We just try to combat it with give us your input. I love it when managers try to tell them to get the boards, ask for questions before the meeting, send an email out. Go ahead and gather those information and those questions. That way you could go in a little better prepared. Like you were saying, you know what's coming. You've heard that question from it. And if you can't get to all the answers, put it all in writing and hand out at the meeting. And a lot of times it will kind of sway them to kind of not come out at that time. But
that is, I agree with everything that you're saying, Becky. And sometimes I even put like pieces of paper so that people, not everybody wants to ask a question orally. Especially if you're meeting in person. So sometimes I put note cards out so that people can write down a question. And just like you said, I know this is not specific to annual meetings, but if you can't get to all of the questions or that nasty, incessant homeowner is just not listening to the answer or doesn't like the answer that's being given, or maybe you've got to do some extra research, you can totally tell them, you know what, I'm going to get back to you and we're going to offline this. Or, hey, that's great. Give me some time to get educated on that. All right. It looks like we have got one more question and we are right at our time, friends. So you guys have been great tonight. You too, Becky. What if you absolutely cannot get anybody to volunteer? Even though they have all of the information about what is needed, the board keeps everybody informed about the budget, completed, and upcoming projects. They still cannot, for the life of them, get people to volunteer? What would you recommend? Bless your heart. That struggle is real.
That struggle is very real. Because you can't force someone to
Right.
volunteer. I always say, you have a friend, your neighbor, talk to them. Who do they think might be teetering? Invite them for coffee or tea.
Oh,
Maybe
that's great.
have a one-on-one conversation with that person. You may have to talk to a few people to kind of get a little bit of wind of who might be swayable. But take the time and go have a one-on-one conversation with them, because they may not fully understand. They may think, I have little kids. I can't do nighttime. I can't go to somebody else's house, whatever it may be. You can really share how much work it really is, what all is involved, what the duties, how you're going to spread the duties among all the board members and committees, so maybe it's not so heavy. Try to take the time to do one-on-one conversations.
Yeah,
We have found that's effective.
That's a really great idea. I love that. I think too that whenever you possibly can, sometimes you have to tell the truth.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go down the road, but I'm just saying, sometimes you have to tell the truth. It's kind of like when you have to increase the budget because your delinquency is out of control, and you're like, oh, I don't want to penalize the paying homeowners, but we can't pay our bills because of delinquency. This is kind of similar to it. If we don't get volunteers, there are consequences. And nobody wants to have to go down that route. So I'm hoping, right, Becky, we gave that person that just asked that question, we gave them all these great different ways that they can hopefully implement, maybe one at a time or all at a time. I don't think there's anything in here that you have to space out or do anything. I think that they can be in tandem. And so we thank you for everybody that has joined us for this evening. This has been a great course. We have got a couple of classes coming up. The next one that we have is next Wednesday. I apologize. No, it is Thursday. We are doing an AMA, Ask Me Anything, all about closings. So Becky had kind of talked about realtors and informing your homeowners at the time of sale. And holy smokes, I didn't realize, I thought my assessments were covered in escrow. So this is going to be a great opportunity for all of you to kind of get some great knowledge about what our closing department does, who operates our closing department. So join us at noon. And what is that? May 10th, I believe it is. 11th, maybe. I'm going to take a look and tell you it is the 11th. I want you to go ahead and mark your calendars for 15 minutes. Everybody can spare 15 minutes. All right, friends. If this is your first time, Heritage does have a great YouTube page full of all of these previously recorded videos and some other goodies for you. So if you have the opportunity, find Heritage Property on YouTube and take a look at all of our previously recorded classes. And for those of you that are Heritage partners, you can see all of our upcoming courses, or for those of you that are not, you can see all of our upcoming courses on our Heritage website by going to heritageproperty.com and looking at community-focused education. We thank you so much for joining us, and for everybody in the office and the audience, the office. We look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great evening.